This is a fun photo of a sunflower that I found on Pixabay, and I'm going to approach it fairly straightforwardly. I would like to put in kind of an abstract background that has some yellows and greens and a little bit of blue for the sky, and hopefully we can make these the abstract yellow spots in the background kind of look like sunflowers, and then focus all of our detail on the big sunflower that's here. I'm actually going to start with some masking only because in case I drop these inks and they start to go crazy into here, I'm not sure. There's some green in this area, but there's some areas that I'd like to have pure yellow. So I've drawn out the sunflower, and I'm going to lighten the drawing and then mask probably just these edges around the things that the background ink might get into. So this is just a cotton ball and alcohol, and I'm going to lighten the drawing. And this is a fairly large brush. We have a lot of area to cover, but not that spot. And I think that's all the masking I need to do. So our masking fluid is now dry, and as you can see, there's actually just paper on here. I couldn't find where I put the masked drawing, and it turned out that it was underneath something else, which I think is not going to be a problem because I'm going to just pull that masking fluid back up. But word to the wise, don't set other pieces of paper on top of your wet masking fluid. So the colors I'm going to use for the background are cloudy blue up in the sky area, bottle, meadow, and limeade for some of the greens, and sunshine yellow and honeycomb for some of the background sunflowers. So I think I'll just do it flat, and I'll start with the cloudy blue. And this is a little bit of alcohol. I guess it's not that flat if I'm going to try to get it, there we go, around the edge of the sunflower there. And it looks like it's split to some pink, but we'll consider that a feature. I'm going to pull off some of that excess blue. All right, and maybe dab that out so we don't have lines. Actually, we'll just dab all of this. Okay, that's the blue for the sky. Now I'm going to add in the greens, and I want to put the greens in first because I would like the yellow sunflowers to kind of push apart the greens that are on the ink patterns. This is the bottle. There's some darker areas back through here. And I think because it's flat, I'll use the cotton ball and just cover some of these areas. You can tell I'm just kind of figuring this out as I do it. Okay. So we've covered that. Now we'll add in the yellow for the sunflowers. Hopefully get some drops. So I've created quite an inky pattern here. I think I will, I wouldn't say I want to let it dry flat, but I think there might be a little too much ink on here. So I'm going to pull off some of it with the cotton ball. I want to avoid any of these really big hard edges. And it's a lot easier to do this while it's wet. Hopefully that will not show. All right, I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll be able to put in our other sunflowers in it. Our background is now dry, and I'm going to pull off the masking fluid. So while I can sort of see the lines, I'm going to use this yellow marker and kind of draw them in so that I can get a better idea of where each petal is. And I'll do the same with this brown marker. I might as well just start to put in some of the texture while I'm doing it. So in painting the sunflower petals, I'm looking for colors that are not yellow because we'll want to have some depth and change and dimension in them. So I definitely see some orange through here. I see some green, and then I'm going to assume this is kind of in the purplish range. So I'm going to pick out some of those colors and add those shadows in. My first color is Sunset Orange. And next I'll use Citrus. And this is Eggplant for more of our shadows. We're using Sunshine Yellow for the base yellow color. I use this yellow in this section or in the center. It's really quite a bit like black and yellow, but I think I'll go ahead and just put a base of the yellow in and then put the black over it, because we have that very distinctive sunflower pattern in here for the seeds. And I'm also going to use the eggplant for the very center. And there's some light patches in here. I'll just use the white pen for them. This is the Pointy Swab and alcohol. And I'm going to start putting some shape to our petals. I'm going to go back and put another passage of sunshine in. And for the center, we have kind of a linear pattern of light and dark that's coming into a kind of a center passage right in here. So I'm just going to kind of sketch in these lines. And then we start the seeds. And of course, they also form a set of curved lines going this way. So this is a very dark marker, kind of a dark brown, and I'm going to use it to add in some of the dots. And I'm also going to use this color in the center. And we have some darker values in this fringier area too. This is some sepia. add it in to this area. So I'm going to pop it in some of these under petal areas. This is the sunset orange again. And not shockingly, this is the citrus. And the sunshine. A cotton swab and alcohol, and I'll lift out some of the lights. At this point, I want to look at the background. And in our reference photo, we've got a bunch of really out of focus sunflowers in the background. And we've got a very loose representation of that here. But I think I'm going to make it a little bit less loose and add in some of these sunflowers. So I'm going to start by using the rounded Q-tip and just pull out some ink and then put in the yellow ink. And this is just sunshine yellow in the brush. I'm just kind of blending it in. This is the sepia. And this is a yellow marker. I'm going to use this dark green marker and just dab in some darker green. And just a little bit of softening the marker edges. So I put all this in because I wanted to splatter it, and I thought that having it just gently in the background will help. I'm also wanting to splatter before I've done too much finalization on the sunflower. So this is alcohol and the chip brush. All right, I'm going to just do a little lifting in the background here. And I'm going to just darken a few of these centers. And soften them just a tiny bit. This is a yellow marker, and dab in some color. It's pretty bright. I think I'd like to make this background green around some of these petals here. course, it won't really blend in if I don't do something to it. So we're getting closer. Now I'd like to go ahead and put in more highlights. I could pass around with the sepia pen, and this will help us define some of these petals. It's going to come into the center here. This is the white pen. I don't really have a yellow pen. I'm going to add some of the highlights here. I'm going to use this lighter yellow marker and just slightly texture some of these petals. I'd like them to be a little more uniform in appearance. I think we've pulled the petals together quite a bit. So now I'm just going to go back and do just a little bit more highlighting. I'm getting pretty happy with the flower, but I want to work on the background a little bit more. I'm also going to just kind of fill in this. So I'm at a place with the background where I'm not sure what I want to do. Because the reference photo has it out of focus, it'll be hard for me to put in a lot of detail. But I like the look of having sunflowers in the background, but I feel like where we are now, it just looks really messy. So I think I'm gonna go a little more abstract and just drop some ink and shoot some canned air. And I want to be very careful to stay away from the flower. So I did a remarkably good job of staying away from the flower. Just going to add in some additional texture in a couple places. Just add a little bit more color in orange. This is I think it says crimson. And this is a purple. I'll just softly blend this a little bit. Another thing I'd like to do is get rid of this blue sky. I feel like there's just not that much of it that's showing when I do the cropping. So I think it would just be better to be nondescriptly green. And of course we need to do that safely. So I'm going to start by just adding some green ink. And this is kind of a green marker. We'll put in some more color. And this is the cotton swab. And now for the tough part, I'm going to use the canned air. And I need to pop back on this outside edge here. Of course, one thing begets another, so I need a little more And a few little touches with the marker. And I'll do a little bit of petal outlining with the sepia pen. And a little bit with the black pen. And just a couple more highlights with the white pen. And I'll call it good.